Let's talk now to Sir Gerald Howarth, who is, of course, former Defence Minister in one of the previous Tory governments and a man who knows a thing or two about the defence of the realm. Gerald, very good morning to you.
Yo, good morning, Mike. Like your cufflinks.
Yeah, thank you. They're cool, aren't they? Very cool.
Well,
now,
I'm wearing my father's squadron cufflinks, 31 Squadron, the Gold Stars.
Oh, very nice. It's a splendid shirt you've got on there as well. I've actually got a bit of a stripe thing going on as well. Anyway, that's enough compliments, right? So let's get down to business. I don't understand the strategy of this government at all, right? One minute they say we're not going to be involved in any kind of attack on Iran, despite the fact that it's not necessarily illegal to do so. Then we're not going to send a ship to protect the Cyprus base that we've got British soldiers and airmen in. But now we are, but they're not going to get there for 4 or 5 days. And we're only going to use defensive capability rather than offensive capability. I mean, what is going on inside the brains of the Department of Defence at the moment?
Well, I think the rot is at the top. I mean, this is humiliating and embarrassing for the United Kingdom that we're led by a Prime Minister who just is all over the shop as far as this very, very serious issue is concerned. And he's managed to alienate and irritate the President of the United States, of whom I am a very severe critic when it comes to Ukraine. But on this, I think he has certainly started the right process. But I mean, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, does seem to be completely in hock to the Muslim vote, which of course deserted the Labour Party at the by-election last week and went to the Greens. And indeed, the President of the United States mentioned that particular point. He said that he thought that Sir Keir was pandering to the Muslim vote. And also, of course, don't forget, this man attaches far more importance to international law than he does to the preservation of the interests of the United Kingdom, whatever he says at the dispatch box in the House of Commons. And he's got an Attorney General who is one of the Human Rights Lawyer Brigade, who've given away the Chagos Islands. I mean, this is a catastrophic government, Mike.
Yes, it really is. And also, it's a catastrophic operations director, if you like, of the defence of the realm. Because it seems to me that his attitude is, we are not going to do anything until somebody bombs us or until somebody attacks us. We're not going to preempt that. We're not going to defend ourselves before that. We're not going to make it possible to, to put people off from attacking us. And as I said, if they want to defend the Cyprus base, we're going to be 4 days out before we can even get the ship there.
Absolutely. I mean, the Prime Minister said that the regime there is abhorrent. He drew attention specifically on Sunday to the fact that Iranian interests have been responsible for 20 attempted assaults upon the people of the United Kingdom. So he said all that, but said, "Oh no, we have to stay our hand. We can't support. We don't want to be involved in the strike action." It's a bit like Lady Macbeth, willing to wound but afraid to strike. And it is just humiliating. I do, though, question where the senior military people have been on this. Yeah. Why did they not take it into their own hands some time ago to make preparations? Because the moment the United States administration turned around the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln, which was then heading to the South China Sea, the moment they turned that round and sent it back to the Gulf of Oman and sent the other carrier, Gerald R. Ford, into the Mediterranean, and the writing was on the wall. So where were the people in the main building in the Ministry of Defense? What were they doing to prepare a Type 45 destroyer? It is the most sophisticated air defense destroyer in the world. Why were they not preparing to send that immediately to the region on standby if necessary? Right. Because obviously Cyprus was bound to be a target if things escalated.
Right, of course. And everybody could see, because it wasn't a secret, that the US fleets were gathering in the Gulf. There was no question that the build-up was really, really obvious and that something was going to happen. So it seems as though they must have made a conscious decision not to send it deliberately.
Well, I do think we need to know that. We need to know whether the military people did actually say, Prime Minister, we need to make sure that we have assets in the region in case they are required. And I understand that the one of the aircraft carriers is being readied for an Arctic operation. Well, what's going on in the Middle East, I think everybody can see is a far more immediate concern than what's going on in the Arctic, albeit that the Arctic is important, because we should not forget, as we sit here today on the 4th of March, Mike, we should not forget that Russia continues to be a major threat to the United Kingdom. But the immediate requirement now, the die having been cast in respect of Iran, which, don't forget, has a policy of pushing Israel into the Mediterranean Sea, and clearly has a policy of trying to develop nuclear weapons, and has been funding all these terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, who are wreaking such mayhem in the region and threatening us and our interests as well. You'd have thought that they'd prepared the ground much more than they appear to have done so, albeit that, of course, as Ben Wallace, former Secretary of State for Defense, said, our assets have been hollowed out. Our armed forces are hollowed out. We've got, one destroyer we can send to the Mediterranean. I mean, it is actually it is pitiful, Mike.
Yeah. It is. And of course, what they'll say, Gerald, though, is that it's all your fault. It's all the Tories' fault, yes, because you allowed it to happen when you were in charge. Yeah,
the Battle of Hastings was our fault as well. Everything was been
I take your point. They've been in quite a long time now. You'd think that they would be able to actually read the room, but they don't seem to be able to read the room, do they?
Well, the language has on occasions been fine. Yes, we've got to up our defence spending, the Prime Minister says, but there's absolutely zero evidence that they're doing it. If you strip out the expenditure on the deterrent, which was moved into the defence budget, as was military pensions moved into the defence budget when formerly it had been part of the DWP, we're below even 2%, and we're now being outstripped by many other countries in NATO who are spending more GDP on defence than we are. But there is a very valid point. What did the Tories do? Well, just let me try to explain very briefly, Mike. In 2010, when I and my colleagues came into government, I moved into main building in Whitehall. We inherited a budget deficit, that is excess of expenditure over income, in 1 year of £160 billion. We had to do something about it. I said to Liam Fox, then Secretary of State, that we should tell the Chancellor that we're Tories and we should not be cutting defence. But at that time, in 2010, Russia did not appear to be the threat that it was. There did not appear to be the growing threats elsewhere in the world. And we had to make some very difficult decisions. And in fairness to George Osborne, we did get that budget deficit down, and we were on track to get a balanced budget. And then COVID hit, the Chinese plague. And that cost the Treasury £440 billion. And that is what did so much damage to us. And for the Labour Party to attack us for our record when they hadn't a clue how to deal with COVID, and Rishi Sunak as Chancellor did keep our businesses afloat at the time. That is the backdrop. Today, it's a different story. Welfare costs are just ballooning, NHS costs are ballooning, and we face a very serious military threat to our country. And there is no evidence that cash is forthcoming to boost the defence budget and order the new kit that we need. We just saw, a couple of days ago, we saw 3 F-15 American fighters taken out of the sky by accident. Jeff Hoon in 2002, Secretary of State for Defence, and when Labour were in office, said that platform numbers no longer matter because of the sophistication of the bits of kit. You need numbers. Drones are being produced in thousands, and we have not yet responded. We are slow off the mark, and we need to prioritise defence expenditure. We need to persuade the public that it is in their interest. Indeed, it is essential for their freedom and for their way of life that we do enhance our military capability.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I've got some very bad news for you and for everybody else as well, Gerald, because there's a story that I saw this week in the Telegraph about how down in Salisbury Plain, that you'll know well, there's a place which is known as Cope Hill Down, which is the mock village where, you know, the armed forces use to sort of, you know, either launch assaults or send paratroops in, all sorts of things, war games that they do. They've apparently been forced to install a bat disco, believe it or not, a lighting system so that the bats don't get too upset whenever there's a mock military exercise going on. This is the latest in sort of what you might call bat protection, which is going on in every public sector operation in the country. But it now appears to be affecting the armed forces. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I'm speechless, albeit that I'm well aware as a church warden here in the glorious Suffolk village of the ghastly stuff that bats do. We need to understand that we are facing a very serious situation. You therefore have to prioritise. And the idea that we circumscribe defence training because of some bats, I mean, it beggars belief. For God's sake, grow up. Understand that we need to take action to defend our people. Because if our people are under attack, nobody's going to give a hoot about the bats. And the bats certainly aren't.
No, they're really not. Listen, they call it batshit bonkers Britain. And I'm sorry to swear, but I mean, that's what we call it now as well. Sir Gerald Howarth, great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Former Defence Minister there, making perfect sense. What is wrong with Keir Starmer? What is wrong with the Department of Defence currently? Why did they not see this coming? How did they not notice that the 7th Fleet, or whatever it is in America, was amassing a massive number of ships and planes and aircraft carriers in the middle of the Persian Gulf and in the Straits of Hormuz? How is it possible that they've now decided to send a boat to protect the good citizens and the armed services in Cyprus, and yet it won't get there for 4 days? I mean, it's absolutely pathetic, isn't it?